What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for May 14th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Hump Day to everyone out there. A rainy, dreary Hump Day out there, which caused the Phillies game to get rained out yesterday. Weather permitting, hopefully they'll be playing a doubleheader today. The good old day-night doubleheader, 1 and 6 o'clock tonight. Luzardo will pitch the first game. Nola will pitch the second game. And maybe, just maybe, this is good for Bryce. We talked earlier in the week about whether or not he should get a day off. But maybe the unexpected day off will do him some good. Hopefully he was able to get some rest, hang out with the kids, whatever, get his mind off of sports. And before we get into the big Phillies news of the day, I did want to say, and I haven't talked about this in a while, however, when some things are just so blatant, I got to talk about it. And I talked about this before with the WIP midday show. Hugh, Kyle, whoever out there, I think Hugh brought this up. So Hugh, if you're listening, we got the Philly GOAT connection. All good. Just give me a shout out. Give me a shout out. They spent multiple segments talking about Bryce needing a day off and whether or not he should have a day off. And again, I don't mind. The content, it's a great question. It's a relevant question for this team. Just give me my love, dude. Give me my love. And I also just saw on the WIP morning show, their question of the day is the same as ours from yesterday. Do you like the Eagles playing the Cowboys in the first game of the season? So just, guys, give me my shout out. I'm not looking to take your jobs. I'm not looking to sit next to you, Joe and Hugh and everybody, but just give me a shout out. I'll come on once a week, 3 times a week, do a quick segment, whatever. Just give me my shout out. It's starting to get blatant though. Anyway, and if I find this question, then we'll get into it. But the big news from a Phillies perspective yesterday was Rob Manfred lifted the lifetime ban. I don't know if he necessarily lifted it, but let it expire, so to speak, on Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, citing that a permanent ban, being on the permanent ban list, ends at the end of your life. So, and I know I said this before when Pete Rose died, if you have a lifetime ban and your life is over, you're not banned anymore. But what this means is they will be eligible, both of those guys, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. With Shoeless Joe Jackson, you might know him from the movie 8 Men Out. He was involved in the 1919 Black Sox scandal where players were accused of throwing World Series games to bookies for bribes. Shoeless Joe actually was the best player in the series, and went to a jury, and he was found not guilty. However, was still banned for life. Very questionable. You can make an argument for both sides, but hopefully he gets in. I mean, he's the 4th highest career batting average of all time. Hit 3 whatever in that World Series, and far and away was the best player in that World Series. I believe that was the World Series, just for a Philly tie there, that Greasy Neal played for the Reds. So there's your Philly tie. But Pete Rose, I think it's long overdue. And I know he's a polarizing figure. And people don't like him. People love him. I don't think there's really anybody in between. But obviously the hit king, most hits in Major League Baseball history, banned for betting on his team while he was the manager. Now, I'm not saying you should be betting on your team when you're playing. Not saying that at all. But if you look at the way the sports landscape is and the fact that today there's the official sports book of the NFL, the official sports book of Major League Baseball, ESPN, who is the worldwide leader in sports, has their own sports book, who has their hands in everything with the NFL and NBA and all the sports. It's kind of like one of those things that, yes, you should not be betting while you're playing or managing. But I think the small detail with Pete Rose is And a lot of people are like, it doesn't matter, he was betting. But I think this does matter. He was betting on the Reds while he was the manager of the Reds for them to win. So you don't think he's putting out his best effort if he has money riding on it? I mean, yes, it's still gambling. Yes, it was illegal. I'm not justifying it. But I think that small little detail, I don't know how much when people say, oh, it impacts the integrity of the game. This dude's betting on his team, making the decisions like he has money riding on it, because he does. And I do think that small detail matters. But all of that aside, I feel it's irrelevant because it happened to me. It happened while he was managing, not necessarily while he was playing. And you can't take away his accomplishments on the field. We could get into another debate regarding the guys like Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Alex Rodriguez, Roger Clemens, all of the quote-unquote steroid era of players. That's a whole different conversation. But strictly based on Pete Rose, what Pete Rose did on the field should be separate from what he did as a manager. So what he did as a player should be completely separate as what he did as a manager. Now, Pete Rose, by all accounts, was a complete and total douche, and had opportunities and chances to get the ban overturned, and just was a complete and total dick, and then doubled down on being a douche and a dick. So listen, everybody who feels bad that, oh, this could have happened when he was alive, listen, Pete did have his chances. He just doubled down on being prickly, so to speak. But it doesn't take away what he did on the field. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Absolutely. I think it's long overdue. I mean, probably one of the greatest hitters in the history of Major League Baseball, from just an average standpoint. Obviously, hits, he has the most, but just a good, pure hitter. Played 5 years here in Philly without Pete Rose. He did the exact same thing that Saquon Barkley and Moses Malone did long before they did, and kind of put the Phillies over the hump to win that World Series. So Pete will always have a special spot in Philly sports history, Phillies history. But I think it's long overdue. But that was the big news of the day. And I know people feel one way or the other. I just feel what he did compared to some of the things that other people did that are allowed in the Hall of Fame. Come on now. I mean, you have racists in the Hall of Fame. You have wife beaters in the Hall of Fame. You have drug addicts in the Hall of Fame. All of those things that, to me, putting a couple bucks on your team that you're managing to win, again, everybody's moral compasses are different, so I'm not here to judge, but I think if you're going to let some of those other people in, Ty Cobb, by all accounts, was one of the most racist people in Major League Baseball during that time. So, I mean, if he's in there, Pete Rose should be in, and I think he will get in. Long overdue. It is a shame that he's not going to be alive to see it, but some of that is on his own doing. But that is today's question of the day. And do you think Pete Rose will get into the Hall of Fame or should get into the Hall of Fame? I know there's a lot of folks that say no. But 267-495-8531, that'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Should Pete Rose be a Hall of Famer? I say yes. He should have been a Hall of Famer a long time ago. And again, keeping this strictly on Pete Rose. Don't want to get into the steroid era. People will save that for another time. But Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, eligible to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, I think, within a couple years or whatever. Long overdue as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, Pete Rose, major figure in Philadelphia sports history, helping the Phillies win that World Series and get over the hump in 1980. All right, yesterday we talked about the Sixers getting a number 3 pick. The draft is officially on Wednesday, June 25th. So over the next month or so, we'll start looking at who the Sixers should and can pick, what they should do with it. But there was a big announcement from the Sixers yesterday, and I really like this. Jameer Nelson was named the assistant general manager. He had been with the Delaware Bluecoats since 2023. but very heavily involved in the Sixers front office. And I like this. I like the fact that he kind of took a Danny Briere approach. He's worked with the scouting teams, worked with the scouting department, looking at players. And some of the guys that the Sixers have brought up from the Blue Coats have been able to contribute and be serviceable NBA players. So I like that Jameer Nelson is stepping into this role. Hopefully it kind of helps counterbalance some of what Daryl Morey has to say. But again, shout out, kudos to Chester's own, St. Joe's own, Jameer Nelson, who is the Sixers' new assistant general manager. Like I said, I like guys like this who kind of work their way up like Danny Briere. Danny Briere worked as a scout. Danny Briere went to Wharton. Jameer Nelson worked as a scout, worked his way up through the Blue Coats organization, has been involved with Daryl Morey and Elton Brand. So I think he's seen it from all sides, and I think going into this draft, I like that Jameer Nelson's going to have his hand somewhat on that. All right, some quick housekeeping notes. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. Don't forget that highlights are on my social media, including Facebook and LinkedIn. Lots of good discussions happen on the Facebook page. Do have made some move or inroads, whatever you want to call it, on the Discord channel. That will be coming very, very soon, just working out some of the last little details. But what that will do is provide a place for everybody to come in and just talk Philly sports. I'll have a channel for the question of the day. And then as we start to grow that, I can build more channels. But excited that the Discord channel, excuse me, is coming very, very soon, hopefully within the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. And then I got a huge announcement regarding the future and the direction of the podcast tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Very excited to make this announcement. Good things coming up. Good things happening. But stay tuned for that starting tomorrow. All right, let's go with our question of the day recap from yesterday. I asked you, how do you feel about the Eagles opening up against the Cowboys? 91% of you liked it. Mostly it was people, anytime we get to play the Cowboys is great. It's going to be great to raise the banner in front of Jerry Jones. Take the Cowboys any week, but week one is best. Probably, though, the best, I guess, take on this football-wise is a very valid point. Anthony from Coatesville said he likes it, but concerned with the team starting off slow. This team has a history of not being its sharpest the first week of the season, so that concerns him. And being that it's a division game, that does cause concern. Fair and valid point. Jason from Plymouth Meeting liked it, but would have rather it been one of either the Lions, Commanders, or even the Bears or Packers, whatever, Rams. But overall, people positive that they're opening up against the Cowboys, 91% of you. So we'll take it. Thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. You know what today's is. Is Pete Rose a Hall of Famer? All right, the rest of the schedule will officially come out tonight at 8. It was announced that they will be in Green Bay on Monday Night Football, November 10th. I totally see them getting more primetime games as well. So we'll see that. We'll start breaking that down with wins and losses, our initial reactions tomorrow. And I missed this the other day, but A.J. Brown received the Making a Better Philly Changemaker Award. And in his speech, he mentioned, was asked or talked about Philly fans and said, y'all don't just cheer, y'all hold people accountable. That's why I feel at home here. You've taught me to be sharper, tougher, more focused as a player and as a man. And how can you not love that? How can, for everything people say about this player, that player, this player, A.J. Brown gets it. A.J. Brown gets it. Love that quote, but I wanted to mention that. So shout out to you, A.J., and I hope you hold us accountable too, which A.J. has called into WIP to set the record straight. So I like that. So shout out to you, A.J. Union in action tonight down at Subaru Park to take on the LA Galaxy. A rematch of a couple years ago, the MLS Cup final. Hopefully the Union can continue to roll and get back on the winning side of this. Be sure to check out my friends over at the Clashing Conferences. You can become a member. You can join. Go to clashingconferences.com for details on how you can get involved and what they have to offer. Obviously, they have the podcast, but so much more than that. So much you can get involved in. So go check out the website, clashingconferences.com. They're always looking for new members. And if you've ever watched any of those podcasts, just the way that the guys are able to kind of just seamlessly interact and just banter with each other is amazing. So go to clashingconferences.com for details on what they can offer you, how you can get involved, how you can become a member, get your voice heard. And then, of course, check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. And then do some shopping at Philly Goat. So much on their website. It's a rainy day. Why not do some shopping today? I'm going to buy the kids the slides tomorrow likely. Looking forward to that. They have the canvas loafers. Waiting for Memorial Day so I can break out the Cape Mays. I've been wearing the Schmitties, but can't wear the Cape Mays before Memorial Day. So go check out the canvas loafers, the slides, the T-shirts, the partnerships they have with Varsity Cooler, Jordan Spector. You name it, they got it. Get some rocks glass for dad. Hell, get some rocks glasses for yourself, the Philly Fanatic ones. And just be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right. Before we get into today's This Day, May 13th was a pretty big day in Phillies history. And a couple of Philly nuggets here. In 1883, the Phillies beat the Chicago White Stockings 12-1. The White Stockings are now known as the Chicago Cubs. And it was the first ever win in Phillies franchise history. 12-1 over the White Stockings. Rough year that first year. But they would get it together over the next 30 years or so. 40 years. And that takes us to 1920. And on this day in 1920, Phillies beat the Cardinals 5-1. It was their 2,827th win to go along with their 2,827 losses. That means they were 500. After this game, though, they would go on to lose 12 in a row, and the Phillies have never been close to 500 since then. So on this day in 1922 was the last time the Phillies had a 500 record. Currently, for those keeping score at home, 10,231 wins against 11,343 losses for a total of 1,112 games under 500. But on this day back in 1922, they were right at 500 before losing 12 games in a row, and just setting the franchise into almost a 30-year tailspin before they would get back to the World Series. But today we're going to go back to 2010. And on this day in 2010, the 7th seeded Philadelphia Flyers knocked off the number 6 seed Boston Bruins 4-3 to complete one of the most ridiculous comebacks in NHL playoff history. They lost the first 3 games, stormed back to win the next 3, but on this day they went down 3-0 before scoring 4 straight goals. I remember I was I think I was bottling my first batch of beer that I brewed myself. It was midway through the first period, and it was already 3-0. But then James Van Riemsdyk, Scotty Hartnell, Danny Briere, and Simone Gagne with a power play goal midway through the third gave the Flyers a berth in the Eastern Conference Finals. It was the third time in NHL history that a team overcame a 3-0 deficit to win a series. The 2014 Kings have done it since. And it was only the third time in NHL playoff history that a team overcame a 3-0 deficit in Game 7. So think about that. The Flyers went down 3-0, forced Game 7, got outplayed the first 15 minutes of the first period, were down 3-0, came back, won 4-3, to get a berth in the Eastern Conference Final, all as the 6th seed. And then they would go on to beat the 8th seed Montreal Canadiens to go to the Stanley Cup before losing 4-2 to the Chicago Blackhawks. But on this day, Flyers with the most improbable and amazing comeback in NHL history, coming back 3-0 in Game 7 after being down 3-0 to win this game 4-3, win the series, and go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then finally today, our Philly Sports Summertime playlist song of the day is 454 by Pieces of a Dream. Pieces of a Dream are a Philly band. 454 came out in 1983. I told you we're going to have a little bit of something for everybody. Going to slow it down, get some chill music going on here. But this song was created in honor of the 1983 76ers. If you remember, Mo Cheeks famously predicted the Sixers would go 4-4-4 in the playoffs, sweeping every round. The only game they did lose was one of the games in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Milwaukee Bucks. So that's where the 4-5-4 came from. And Pieces of the Dream, to their credit, capitalized on it and created a song. But that 1983 Sixers team was one of the best teams in NBA history, just dominant throughout. The fact that he called his shot and they went 12-1 in the playoffs, we'll take. But 4-5-4 from Pieces of a Dream, a Philadelphia band from the 80s, is today's summertime playlist song. Really like this song. I've mentioned this before, but I really like this song. So go check it out. And of course, we'll give you a bonus song. And sticking in the 1983 theme and kind of same genre of music, I'm going to recommend you add Candy Girl by New Edition to your summertime playlist. Came out in 83, but there is a Philly tie here. New Edition is a Boston-based group. They got big. They were supposed to be the new edition of the Jackson 5, hence the name. Give me a little music history here, too. Why not? But as they got bigger, they started going their separate ways. Johnny Gill, Ralph Tresvant, Belle Biv DeVoe broke away, Bobby Brown. But Michael Bivins from Belle Biv DeVoe discovered Philly's own Boyz II Men backstage at a Power 99 concert, who Boyz II Men went and they were looking to talk to Will Smith, the Fresh Prince, and get him to hear them sing, but they couldn't find him. But Michael Bivins happened to hear them sing a New Edition song, liked it, gave him their number, and the rest, as they say, once Boyz II Men called them, is history. So I'm going to give you a bonus track today. And again, we're going to slow it down a little bit on our summertime playlist. At End of the Road by Boyz II Men. Little did we know that 1983 championship would be the end of the road for right now for the Sixers. But there you go. 2 bonuses today. End of the Road by Boyz II Men. Candy Girl by New Edition. Gave you a little bit of a musical history lesson there. But today's actual playlist song of the day is 4-5-4, Pieces of the Dream. I suggest you go check it out. I will post a clip to the video on my social media. On this day in 2010, Flyers complete the ridiculous and improbable comeback of beating the Bruins 4-3 after being down 3-0 in Game 7 after being down 3-0. So what a series, what a win. They would go on to win the Stanley Cup. In 1922, this was the last day the Phillies were ever 500 as a professional franchise. They are currently 1,112 games under 500. So a long way to go for the Phils to get back to 500. But they did get their first ever win on this day in 1883. We'll have everything Eagles scheduled tomorrow as we break down what it means, where we think they're going to go, how they're going to finish, do all the wins and losses, things like that. We will have an update on the Union. Hopefully we have 2 Phillies games to update. But be sure to let me know your thoughts on Pete Rose. Is he a Hall of Famer? Should he be a Hall of Famer is the better question, I guess. That'll be the question. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? I say yes. Time to take personal biases and things like that. You got to look at things objectively, look at what was on the field, and Pete Rose, as a Major League Baseball player, is a Hall of Famer, no doubt. So is Shoeless Joe. The dude was found not guilty So what do you want? He was the best player in that World Series as well. I know some people say, oh, well, in the games that were clean, he was good. And then he whatever. We'll see. He said he wasn't involved. I believe him. He's not here to defend himself anyway. But let me know your thoughts on Pete Rose. We'll have all that. Start looking ahead. And don't forget, we're going to start off the show with a huge announcement regarding the future of the podcast. Great things. I've been teasing it for a while, but great things are on the horizon here at This Day in Philly Sports History. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for May 14th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday. Stay dry out there. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.